things are not going great for Trump or Republicans. We just saw on Capitol Hill this week, Trump is on the verge of dumping his embattled Attorney General nominee, Todd Blanche, after Senate Republicans basically refused to bring his nomination forward. Blanche, of course, the architect of Trump's plan to give almost $2 billion to the people who attacked cops on January 6th, one of the key players in the Epstein files cover-up. And Todd Blanche is an idiot, no doubt about it. But being an idiot has never really been disqualifying for a Republican being nominated before. Just look at Pete Hegseth. So, Tara, you published a great story about this on the Red Letter. Give us the scoop on your take.
Yeah, I mean, this is really about this weaponization bill. I mean, at least to Thom Tillis and John Cornyn, who are two members of what is being called the YOLO caucus, because they've crossed Trump, they're retiring, they have nothing to lose. But they really pinned their opposition to Todd Blanche on this $2 billion anti-weaponization fund, and the fact that Trump and his family they've been granted sweeping immunity when it comes to tax penalties and a case against them. And they said it was a liability for their members, especially their moderate members heading into the midterms. And I agree. Trump does not want to lose this fund. He does not want to lose his sweeping immunity, and he's willing to hold his nominee until the next Congress, when, arguably it could be even more difficult to confirm Todd Blanche. Now, the truth is that there are loopholes in which Todd Blanche could be acting attorney general for the entire term. But, I want to draw attention to the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, and that's who I really wrote about in my piece. So I started covering this story back in 2020 when I traveled around the country with Virginia Giuffre, who's one of the most prominent survivors of Epstein. And we, knocked on doors of people who she believed could help corroborate her story of abuse, and it was interesting because so many of those doors remained closed, hang-ups, people turning away, promising to help but never following up with the meeting. Everyone from the chef, the pilot, the houseman. One of the people that we spoke to, though, did end up being a key witness for the prosecution in the case against Ghislaine Maxwell. So I felt like we did do something. But, I watched the survivors on the Hill yesterday trying to talk to Thom Tillis. And he's like, yeah, we'll do that meeting, while he's hitting the elevator door to get away from them, backing away. He doesn't want to talk to these girls. They see John Fetterman. He throws his hands up in the air and he's like, I'm not on the list. And it's just that some of these people, they're the most powerful people in the world, and yet they're turning their backs on some of the most vulnerable. These people have all the power in the world to make sure that Todd Blanche isn't confirmed, to make sure that something actually happens with the Epstein files, that there's true accountability. And they're like, yeah, not me, leave me alone. Yeah, sure, I'll help you, but never following up. They asked for meetings with Cornyn and Thom Tillis. They haven't gotten those meetings yet. They got a meeting with Cornyn's staff because Cornyn's so busy. What is Cornyn so busy doing right now, by the way? He's about to retire in a few months. He can certainly meet with some women who have been through hell and are out here trying to get justice. It's really despicable. And so
it is.
I wrote about this, what they're doing, and how it's a continuation of the work that Virginia and I were doing, trying to get people to bear witness to what they saw and to actually do something about it. It's amazing cowardice, right? Like, it really is. And we're seeing it now in the form of our elected officials, now that the story has become so politicized. But it's a really unfortunate thing to witness. And I felt for the women, but I also understand that doing this is an act of emotion, an act of speaking your truth, of doing something. And it can be re-traumatizing, but it can also be empowering. So, I commend them for making the rounds and knocking on those Senate doors and trying to get something to happen. But fortunately, they're meeting a lot of resistance.
And that's what I think stands out to me in your reporting, because this has really fallen out of the headlines. I mean, for Republicans like Tillis, it seems to be this red line is Donald Trump making himself immune from future IRS investigations. That's indefensible. But no one wants to talk about Jeffrey Epstein anymore, or Todd Blanche's role in this cover-up.
No.
Why do you think it is that Tillis is so hesitant to engage this issue, which honestly, when you look at the scope of Epstein's wrongdoing, is far bigger than Trump's immunity deal?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you consider the fact that even the FBI says there are as many as 1,000 victims. How many crimes do you know have 1,000 victims, by the way,
Yeah.
against children? It's insane. And it was an incredibly long running cover up, decades long. I was really shocked to see Tom Tillis rubber stamp him after that meeting, saying, "I'm so happy that Todd Blanche did something that no other attorney general has done. He met with the survivors because that was a condition for him to advance him onto the the Senate floor out of the Judiciary Committee. But it was a rubber stamping for something that was completely a slap in the face to the survivors. I mean, they said that it was a check the box kind of meeting. Todd Blanche, in fact, told them to go back to square one, to go back to the FBI, said, I had nothing to do with this. Was actually quite combative with them. He was patronizing. Um, he, he even maintained that there was no evidence. And they're like, what about our sworn depositions? How are those not evidence? That is an on the record, under oath account of what happened. If they are lying, they are subject to being, prosecuted for perjury. Why is their testimony not evidence? And he sort of passed them off to a more junior member of his staff who specializes in sex crimes. He had very little interest. And it was a 90-minute meeting. And it was a meeting in which the survivors left feeling even more certain that he should not be attorney general. And yet he got a, tweet from Tom Tillis saying, good job, buddy, for the photo op.
Graceful. Now, usually at this point, I would ask something like, what should Democrats do to hold Republicans accountable on this? But I think this is a bigger question because it's Democrats and Republicans, regular Americans, are disgusted, as poll after poll shows at how the Epstein files have been handled. What should regular Americans be doing to hold the Senate accountable on Todd Blanche?
I mean, I don't know how a man who could sit across from a woman who is a convicted pedophile, sex offender, and do this for 2 hours in a way that would clear her name. And according to the reporting from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan in their book Regime Change, suggest offering her that interview in exchange for a pardon. I mean, I don't know how they could rubber stamp this man who was clearly former President Trump's personal attorney and considers himself to still be in that role to be the next attorney general of the United States. I mean, his hands are covered in muck when it comes to the Epstein story.
Yeah.
He's on the side of the president. He's on the side of the of Ghislaine Maxwell. We still don't know if there was a quid pro quo, and she's got to wait until the end of Trump's term for a pardon in exchange for that interview. Barry Weiss apparently is screen testing correspondence to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, CBS. And we know that Barry Weiss is the editor-in-chief of CBS. She's quite Trump-friendly.
Yeah.
And why does she need to screen test new correspondence to interview Ghislaine Maxwell? She has a whole newsroom full of correspondents who I'm sure could properly cross-examine Ghislaine Maxwell, who already got her version of a softball interview over 2 days that aired. I mean, does she really need another softball interview on primetime TV?
This is something that it really does turn your stomach, and we're going to keep following this. I appreciate the reporting you've done on this as well, and the fact that you've stayed on this story, even as a lot of the mainstream media has lost interest, seemingly, for whatever reason.